To really enjoy wrestling, it's a necessity to be able to suspend your disbelief. You need to learn to look past the fact that punches and kicks don't leave bruises and cuts, or the fact that those two baddies are plotting something heinous in front of a rolling camera and an entire production crew, or that Mojo Rawley has never been WWE champion or main evented WrestleMania despite being the actual best wrestler and toughest man in the locker room by a country mile. Oh, sorry. We as wrestling fans can look past all that, but we find it a lot harder to move on when a storyline doesn't have proper closure. Since we've invested time and energy in a storyline and possibly gotten excited about the direction and, yes, conclusion to come, it's a bit of a kick to the bollocks when the storyline just, ends without a satisfying payoff or explanation. WWE have, naturally, been culpable here, leading to countless conspiracy theories and much speculation about what could have been as it relates to some angles that were mysteriously dropped. And since I have nothing to do until my takeaway gets here, I figured I would join in. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are the 10 strangest unconcluded WWE storylines. Join us. Number 10, I Still Remember. It's not incorrect to say that Booker T was left floundering after getting steamrolled by Triple H at WrestleMania 19, the months after being something of a come down that wasn't helped by his absence due to injury. When he returned proper in late 2003, it looked like WWE was set to go with an intriguing storyline built around a mysterious 3-word note. While warming up backstage for his match on the November 10th episode of Raw, John Heidenreich, more on him in a bit, showed up to help plug WWE's new unscripted book and pass along an envelope with the former 5-time WCW champion's name on it. The note read simply, "I still remember," and while the camera lingered on it, Book simply brushed it off and went to the ring. But fans were curious. Who still remembered? And remembered what? Was it Booker's big brother Stevie Ray, fellow misfit in action Corporal Cajun? Or what about Ahmed Johnson, coming back to renew their rivalry over the letter T? Don't ask, it was WCW, so trust me when I say it's as dumb as it sounds. Anyway, we never found out as the storyline was dropped as quickly as it started. Rumor was that the culprit was going to be Booker's former tag partner Goldust, who was set to return but never made it back before being released. Those rumors are false, however, as it was actually myself who was behind the note. I just wanted my favorite wrestler to know that I hadn't forgotten about the royalties he owed me as the inventor of the Spinneroonie. Number 9, Little Johnny. Ah yes, now we go back to John Heidenreich again. Isn't that great? Bet you never thought you'd get 2 entries with Heidenreich, did you? I really do spoil you lot. Before he became the Undertaker smashing, poetry reading, Michael Cole molesting menace in bright red trunks in late 2004, Heidenreich was trying to break through as a member of the Raw roster. He debuted on the Red brand as an ultra-intense superfan, freaking out his fellow professionals by harping on about someone called Little Johnny. According to Heidenreich, Little Johnny was a big fan who was also a massive influence on his career, but we never got to see who this fella was, and I think I know why. See, I think Little Johnny was the voice inside of his head, telling him what to do, like an inner child who is mad at the world and just wants to see terrible wrestling. It was either that or quite possibly his big fat stodger. Sadly, we never found out because Heidenreich was taken off television and sent back to developmental after a handful of appearances. Until now. Because it's my pleasure to reveal that Little Johnny was, in fact, going to be a young Adam Pacitti making his WWE debut until backstage politics reared their ugly head once again. Number 8, Imposter KANE. While bad storylines have been known to do irreparable damage to a wrestler's career, KANE seemed to take every naff narrative in his stride, coming out of them, if not unscathed, then just a little bit, scathed? There was nothing that could stop the Big Red Machine, such was the strength of Glenn Jacobs as a performer and the character itself, which, let's be honest, considering its convoluted origin story, was always destined to dabble in the utterly bizarre. By mid-2006, the Masked Man had endured Katie Vick, the whole Lita baby drama, and untold other nonsense when he was put into a feud with himself. Well, not himself, but someone dressed in a 1997 Fisher-Price Kane costume, giving their best effort to torment the devil's favourite demon. Cue a craptacular program where fake Kane's Brian May-esque wig was the hot topic of conversation, resulting in a battle of the doppelgangers at Vengeance. Surprisingly, the imposter Kane won, leading most to assume that the feud would continue, especially since real Kane had alluded to knowing who was behind the mask, signifying a reveal might be around the corner. Nope. The next night on Raw, Raw, Glenn got his revenge by chokeslamming the phony a bunch of times, unmasking him so we never saw his face, and throwing him out of the arena exit. The whole thing was never spoken about again, until now. Because, contrary to internet legend, fake Kane was, in fact, played by a teenage Adam Pacitti. Look at the physique, folks! Should have been obvious. Number 7, the Blonde Bitch Project. WWE hold a grudge? No way! Get out of town! Vince McMahon and co would never do a thing like that! Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but yes, even the saintly CEO of our favourite sports entertainment vessel can, perhaps, have a little trouble letting go of hard feelings. Although, in the case of the Blonde Bitch Project, a penny for whoever can guess this was parodying, it was actually divisive Attitude Era scribes Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara who were sticking the needle into former star Sable, who had left the company on very bad terms months earlier. A teaser for the skits, which featured Stevie Richards and the Blue Meanie searching the woods for the eponymous blonde bitch, was shown on an episode of Raw and actually caught the attention of newspaper USA Today, who mentioned it alongside other Blair Witch parodies. This in turn caught the attention of the Big Cheese at Titan Towers, who demanded to see everything else that had been filmed. He viewed it, and he didn't get it, since he hadn't seen the film and didn't care to. That, coupled with the fact that WWE Legal advised against taking shots at somebody who was currently suing them, meant that the whole thing was kiboshed. Since I don't want to upset Brock Lesnar, you know, on the off chance that he watches this video, I know he's a fan, I'd like to set the record straight by telling you all that the blonde bitch was actually going to be myself, and not the former Playboy cover girl. Number 6, the Mariner. If I ran a wrestling promotion, please, one day soon, please, I would have an oddly dressed, big, beefy, masked man do random run-ins every single week. It would be good. Really, really good. It's an idea I've had for a while, actually, ever since watching the same thing on WWE television in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania 7. I didn't know what was going on exactly, but some bloke in one of the most audacious attires going, like a hodgepodge video game creator wrestler come to life, would attack the likes of Rick Martel, Dino Bravo, and Earthquake after they had notched another routine squash match win on Superstars or Wrestling Challenge. And then he just vanished without being given a name or having his motivations explained. Some years after the fact, it was revealed that the man with no name was portrayed by Ed Brutus Beefcake Leslie, and the character was actually called the Mariner. The Beefster was attempting to make a comeback after a horrific parasailing accident had left him with substantial facial injuries, but clearly he wasn't ready to return to the ring and went back on hiatus. And obviously, it wasn't me under the mask, okay? I was about 3 or something at the time. I do, however, have some faint memories of a family parasailing trip to Tampa, Florida the summer before. Number 5, NEXUS bury the Undertaker. Goodness me, has it really been a decade since those lads in black and yellow armbands stormed WWE and began to systematically take out the top stars one by one? Though the Nexus may have ultimately been squandered, it's worth remembering that they were in fact presented as a force to be reckoned with, at least initially. Wade Barrett, in particular, looked like a genuine threat as the figurehead and mastermind behind the group attacks. They went after one of their biggest scalps at the 2010 bragging rights, ganging up on and beating down The Undertaker and literally helping to bury him alive as they cost him a World Heavyweight title match against Kane and ostensibly murdered him. But why did they do it? Were they being instructed by someone else doing their bidding for them? Was it just a random assault because, hey, why not? Well, despite David Otunga hinting that their reasons would soon be revealed, they never were. Common consensus was that it would lead to a WrestleMania match between Barrett and the Phenom, but that never happened and the whole episode was forgotten about. Until now, of course. Because I'm happy to reveal that it was actually a social media DM sent from a certain A. Pacitti to a certain B. Barrett that provided all the motivation needed. Number 4, the end of Million Dollar Mania. It must be good to know that, should the television ratings continue to fall, Vince McMahon can just literally give away $1 million of his own personal cash in a bid to draw people in. As he did in 2008 with McMahon's Million Dollar Mania on Raw, aka literally paying people to watch the show. It was a rather desperate and utterly transparent stunt and led to some awful cringeworthy TV as a result, result as a belligerent Vince McMahon battled with the general public over the phone. Classics included the billionaire once dialing the wrong number and also getting rickrolled. Despite the inherent entertainment provided by watching a psychopath try to operate a simple household device, ratings actually began to fall as the grandkids' college fund slowly shrunk. Naturally, nobody was ever paid a cool million, with some being given as little as $2. After 3 agonizing weeks, the experiment came to a merciful end with, you guessed it, another rating-seeking stunt when the set collapsed on Vince, who was then taken out of the arena on a stretcher. So, who did it? A disgruntled USA Network executive? Trips and Steph? What about referee Jimmy Corderas, as he always looked a bit shifty, didn't he? Keep guessing, because we never found out, and we never will. Of course, if you freeze the frame in the right spot and blow it up 50 times magnification, I think you can just about make out who it was. Number 3, who raised the briefcase? By the time the 1999 King of the Ring rolled around, the Austin vs. McMahon story had been dominating WWE television for more than a year, and while it was always great fun seeing Austin drive a novelty vehicle into an arena or watch Vince piss himself in the ring, the rivalry definitely needed something to freshen it up. So putting Stone Cold against the Boss and his son Shane in a handicap ladder match with control of the company at stake was certainly an exciting development. It was a unique match with real stakes and a worthy way to close out a pay-per-view. And the match finish only whet the appetite more, as the Texas Rattlesnake was screwed out of the win and lost his storyline CEO status when the briefcase he was trying to grab was mysteriously raised out of his reach. In the end, the McMahons won the bout, but everyone was wondering who was behind the jiggery-pokery that led to their victory. It was never clarified. It was sort of implied that it was Big Boss Man, but never outright confirmed to be the man from Cobb County, Georgia, angering fans and causing plenty of playground fights, I'm sure. I have it on good authority, however, that it was me, Austin! It was me all along! So now you can all rest easy. Number 2, GTV. Another doozy from 1999 was the introduction of GTV. Or GDTV as it was originally called, before the writers realised that it would be too obvious that Goldust was behind it. Because that was apparently the plan for GTV, the hidden camera that caught all manner of altercations, storyline developments, and naturally good old-fashioned toilet humour. The grainy black and white footage inevitably showed WWE superstars in compromising positions, and fans enjoyed them, speculating on who could be behind it. Over time, however, GTV became less and less prevalent until eventually it disappeared for good. No coincidence that Vince Russo, the brains behind the thing, was also gone at this point. So too was Goldust, the man who would likely have been revealed as the GTV mastermind. Some years later, Chris Jericho suggested that with the bizarre one out of the picture, comedian and actor Tom Green, known for filming stunts and pranks, was going to be revealed instead. Turns out the bloke that signs the checks thought that a man tossing off a horse wasn't very funny, which is quite surprising really, and said no to Green and canned the whole thing instead. We never got the payoff, until right now of course, because it was actually myself, then a budding prankster, who was behind the skits. GTV, of course, stood for Get the Cat Excited TV. Duh. Number 1, Shane McMahon's Lockbox. Shane McMahon's shocking return to WWE in 2016 was, now don't try to deny it, absolutely brilliant. The official best wrestler in the world came back after a 7-year absence, and we all thought, gee, I bet I'll never get sick of that dancing or those hilarious little punches he does. Naturally, Shane's first order of business was of the family variety, as he confronted Daddy Vince and Sister Steph over wanting control of the company, which led to Shane being booked in a Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania 32. In reality, WWE were in a bit of a bind, as they felt that they didn't have a proper top-level opponent for the dead man, and with Shane's in-ring return, coupled with the near certainty that he would fall off the top of the cell, it was considered a winner. Still, they needed a little something extra to get the people talking, and thus, Shane introduced the idea of his secret lockbox, which supposedly contained incriminating evidence that could bring down the old man as a way of blackmailing his way to the match he wanted. And then, it was never mentioned again. An apparent MacGuffin. I could really go for a McMuffin right now, actually. I hope that takeaway gets here soon. Anyway, nobody knows what was in or what happened to that lockbox, but I do, and I'll never tell you.